psychosexual, Bob. You're under arrest.
By Lucifer's beard!
Yeah. It's a good thing you drifted by this brothel.
I knew I had to buy some time, so I asked him to sing the score from the HMS Pinafore.
Ooh, a plan fiendishly clever in its intricacies.
Take him away, boys.
Hey, I'm the chief here. Take him away, toys.
What'd you say, Chief?
Do what the kid says.
What an episode.
Oh my god. I can't believe you picked that. That is like my, this is crazy. I had never seen either version of this movie, Cape Fear.
I hadn't either.
Wait, what?
Really?
Whoa.
That's amazing.
Wow. Wonderful.
But that is actually my favorite episode of The Simpsons of all time.
Yeah, it's got to be top 5.
Did Conan O'Brien help write that one or something? I don't know.
I would not be
phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
I was. Go ahead, Dan.
Chris, we blew it. Film Trace. It's a podcast, guys. Come on. Hey, welcome to Film Trace. This is a podcast where we trace the life of a film from conception to production, all the way to release and reception. It is season 15 of Film Trace. We're doing Visionary Remakes. We're doing the 60s. It is Cape Fear 1962 and the Martin Scorsese remake of Cape Fear in 1991. Very special guest who's been on the show before, Amanda Jane Stern, actor, writer, producer. You put out a film recently, right? Perfectly Good Moment.
I
was that a couple years ago?
No, it came out November 1st. So this past November. Yeah, because I was on your show, I want to say last year, when we were on the festival circuit or had
That's right.
just...
Yeah.
Because we
were looking for a distributor. Yeah.
Yes, because we did an entire year on the festival circuit, and then we're basically in negotiations with distribution for months, and then came out November 1st.
Amazing. How's it going? What's been the reception? How's it been? How's the experience been?
It's okay. So I've had this really weird experience, kind of recently. I'll be on Blue Sky, just kind of scrolling through posts, and all of a sudden I'll see my face.
Awkward.
It's really awkward. And it's because someone who, and it's not even necessarily someone I follow. Sometimes it's someone who follows someone else I follow will post about watching it, and they'll be sharing the poster. And then there's me staring right back at me. Big ass face on the screen. And it's
You're clearly not
strange.
A Leo. I would love that if I saw myself on Blue Sky. I'd be like, oh, this is great. Tell me more.
It's such a strange experience. I mean, it's good, and it's been really interesting. We've definitely been, we're super indie, so it's not like we have any budget or any press team, and it's been us very grassroots, and we've been slowly finding our audience and our fans, and we've really found some people, and that's been a really, really cool experience. Seeing people actually take to the movie and have it resonate with them, and have people want to talk about, I was in this relationship and that was fun to watch because it was cathartic to get to watch it that way. And I've connected with some really, really cool people that way. So it's been interesting.
Where can people find the movie? Is it just on VOD?
Right. It is. It's you can watch it for free with ads on Tubi, or you can rent or buy it on Amazon. There's some other places, but those are the big ones.
Gotcha. Amazing. That's awesome. And then you're also doing the podcast, right? Don't Be Crazy?
Yes.
What have you guys been doing recently?
We did for January, we did Coppola movies, and then we were going to do Friedkin February, and everything we wanted to watch was not streaming. And we kind of have a thing that we just want to make sure everything's streaming so our listeners could watch them. And nothing.
You caring about your listeners.
Yeah, we used to do that. Then we just gave up.
I don't. It's my co-host who cares.
Gotcha.
And so they weren't streaming anywhere. So we just said, okay, what are some things we just really want to watch? So we're just kind of doing... I kind of think there's a revenge theme going on for our month.
I was going to say, I thought that's what the theme was.
It's not official, but we started with Revenge. Next, we're doing Talented Mr. Ripley, and then we're doing The Last Seduction. I think there's some revenge in all of those.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So that's what we're doing. And you
Very
can listen to that wherever you get your podcast. That's just me and my friend Zach, and we just talk about movies. But then also, I'm sure if you listen to a lot of podcasts, my voice pops up on so many of them because I've probably been on 24 over the last 2 months.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Well, we love having you, and thanks for coming back.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to be here. I'm so interested to talk about these two movies because I also had never seen them, and they were on my list of things to watch, and I'm a huge film noir fan. So then watching the first one the other day, I was like, huh.
Yeah.
Okay. yeah. I see. Yeah.
Let's get into it. I was, because I had seen both of these movies, definitely the Scorsese one more and more recently. But I was definitely surprised by that, like looking it up, and people like referring to the original 62 Cape Fear as film noir. And I'm like, I don't remember that, especially considering the time period we're in. You know, Dan, I'm sure, has lots of thoughts as a film noir nut.
I have thoughts too. That was a conversation that my fiance and I had after we watched it. It was this: do you see this as film noir?
It's tough because, like, I feel like the traditional noir period, you know, the post-World War II, the famous one, definitely started to peter out like 55, right? 57, you know, it's really kind of getting pretty quiet. And I was going through my list of like, I have a noir like list that I'm going through.
Oh my God, yes.
Not a lot in the 60s. It's just not like, Clute shows up in 71, and then there's the neo-noir stuff in the 70s, but there's just not a lot going on in the 60s. It's tough.
And I think a lot of it is what was going on in the world and with the Hays Code, which I know is on the list of things to talk about. And I'm so excited because I fucking love to talk about the Hays Code.
Love it. Yeah. You're on the right podcast.
I know. Oh, I know.
Dan's birthday gift to me one year was a pre-code
oh my God.
t-shirt.
Yeah, a cartoon t-shirt.
It's strange because, like, I think that there's an argument for it for sure, but I had always kind of like the basic film school factoid, right? Is like Touch of Evil is kind of the end of the era, right?
Yeah,
it's 58.
Yeah.
Yep. I would agree with that. That's a really strong argument.
And that's how I learned it as well. And I, watching that and then watching this, I don't disagree.
Yeah. So, like, where? I mean, I also feel like our generation has like a different context, and one of the things that I picked up a lot on watching the Scorsese version, which still has Mitchum and Peck in it, right? But it also has like these really hardcore, like obvious references to Night of the Hunter.
Yes.
Classic noir, also featuring Robert Mitchum in a leading role. And so, like, it almost feels it's kind of like a big gumbo now, right? Of like noir and then neo noir, and it's like the 60s is just like a weird decade for movies in general.
Yeah, especially this time period too, because one of the things that kind of threw me off initially, you know, it comes out in 1962. And I'm like, wait a second, this isn't black and white. And someone pointed out, oh, this is kind of like, it's a pointed thing being in black and white. I don't know that much about film history. So I was like, I got to go back and look. But yeah, at this point, it was the exception that things would be black and white. Almost everything was in color in the early 60s.
Yep.
And so it's like, there's definitely some sort of attempt here to do something that harkens back a little bit. I don't know if there was a desire to sort of tap into the noir lineage and really pull it forward. The thing that pops into my mind when I'm, you know, thinking about the book that this is based on and the original is like, it seems like it's a transition into psychological thrillers.
Yes, it is.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is different than noir in the sense that, like, if I had to like define the two, is that like noir always has this sense of sort of almost existential mystery and misery going on, especially at the end where things aren't really wrapped up, things are open-ended. There's this sense of things are not going to be okay, and I don't understand the world all that much, and I still don't understand the world after going through all of this. There's a sort of fatalism to the whole thing.
Right.
I'm not really, this is kind of tidied up at the end.
This is very the external threat to the nuclear family unit more so, and it's
100%,
so obviously pulling so much more from Hitchcock. And the one that I really see it pulling from, and I don't think this does it any favors, is Shadow of a Doubt, which Hitchcock thinks that's his best movie, and it might be my personal favorite Hitchcock.
Yeah.
And I think just seeing how much it pulls from that makes me want to go back to that one, because I think there's so many strengths, because that is also a family unit almost being torn apart, but the terror is coming more from inside.
Yeah.
And I think there's a thing about, you really understand. Mitchum is frightening, don't get me wrong, but what he's not is alluring in this movie. In other movies, absolutely, Out of the Past, totally alluring. He's sexy. I would put him there. In this movie, he's so overtly villainous.
Yeah.
That, like, Diane Taylor, when she first meets him at the bar, and he just gives her that stare, and it's just that is a man you stay away from. So I don't understand why she goes out with him later, kind of thing.
Right.
Whereas,
very bizarre. It's very bizarre. Yeah.
it women written by men issue is really what happened here. There's a lot of women dialogue in both movies where their dialogue is just exposition.
Yep. I did notice that too.
All of Diane's dialogue is exposition. That's
Right.
It's do you know why I went out with you? No, I really don't, because you were really creeped out by him before.
Right.
But in Shadow of a Doubt, you feel that push and pull. You know what she's attracted to, because he is both alluring and charming and really smart. And the movie doesn't tell me a million times that he's smart. It shows me. Whereas this movie keeps telling me he's smart. And then I watch it and I go, but he's not.
Mm-hmm.
What he did is really stupid. And then when we get to the 91 one, and I'm like, okay, but the legal system has changed a bit, and here's where I'm going to break apart every time they could have arrested this mofo and ended the movie. Because I'm just going to say, the guy is an ex-con who went to jail for real bad crimes, and in the original, Gregory Peck is a prosecutor. Their words do not hold the same weight.
Yeah. No, totally. It's I think the original too is like it when you have someone like Gregory Peck playing the lead, it adds this era of aura, whatever, of respectability. It's tidy, it's proprietous, and Mitchum's like Cady is I don't know, like I get the sense that neither of you really love the original. Am I right in saying that? I'm tossing this out there to you guys. Did you guys not love it?
I don't love it.
I thought it was fine.
Yeah, I had higher hope.
Love it.
What?
I adore
What a
the
surprise.
original.
What a surprise.
I don't love either, to be perfectly honest.
Oh, we're not even the 91 one. It's going to be a long conversation.
It really, I have. Oh my God. I like the original more, and watching the remake made me appreciate it more, because I have real problems with the remake.
I guess I'm going to be the lone remake defender.
I mean, I knew it. I knew that was going to happen. When I was watching it, I was like, Chris is going to defend this. Chris is going to defend it.
I will tell you exactly where it loses me and why. When we get there. But no, there are just, I think I've seen better B crime thrillers from the same time period that try something a little more muddled and not so black and white. And I don't mean because it's in black and white. I mean the messaging.
Yeah. Okay, so
go ahead, Chris.
Well, I need to dig into this in terms of like how this 62 version can manage to resonate, because it has a lot of things going for it. First and foremost, in my opinion, the Bernard Herrmann score is just so it hits so hard still all these years later, and obviously Elmer Bernstein heavily relies on it when he reshapes it for the 91 version. That's how iconic it is. But other than that, I was the the nerd in 10th grade English, just like eating up Gregory Peck and To Kill a Mockingbird, which came out the same year. But other but in here, he feels so flat. Everybody feels so flat, and not in a way where it feels like it's really serving the archetypes.
I think
And
it's the script.
Right. There's just there's no meat on the bones here.
No.
Anything that I can I'm able to like parse out as particularly deep or meaningful, it only comes down in Mitchum's performance. But then that also has the problem, like you said, Amanda, of like this guy, we don't see how his creepiness is also somewhat appealing to anybody. And I think that's going to be one of my main defenses, is that I think the way that De Niro plays this character in the 91 version, it's so much more disturbing because you can see how this kind of person could exist.
My issue isn't how he's played, it's how he's written and how he's acted. And there's a moment where it just hits a moment of, with what you've told me about him and with what I just saw, you took it a step too far.
Okay.
And you've lost me from any, and when we get there, I'll really like break down. But I agree with you, Chris. It's just, and I was reading the notes that you had about how in the book he has no charisma.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking, well, then what's the story? It's very dime store psychology.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Is the issue, and it doesn't understand, like, okay, so this man is a sexual predator. That's what he is. And it's trying. Both of these movies are trying to tell me that he is charming and really smart, even if he, in the remake, didn't have the privilege of growing up educated. We'll get there because there's some murkiness to that.
Sure.
But I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing this genius. I'm watching a man make the dumbest choices imaginable. I mean, again, Gregory Peck, who is, you're right, he's too perfect. He's also a prosecutor. And this guy is someone who he testified against for assaulting a kid, a child, a little girl, you know? And so this man showing up at like all the same places that he is. Oh, now he's in the bowling alley where this guy is with his child and staring at them. There's no world in which you don't arrest him on some charge. And it's 61 and they know this guy's record. And this is the Deep South. The cops would plant some damn evidence to get rid of this guy, and you know it.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things I think that as I watch the originals, it does stretch your sort of
suspension of disbelief.
Yeah, to some degree, where it's just like, obviously they take care of these things in certain ways. But I will say, it's like, the one question I'll ask both of you is that, let's just the original. Is Max Cady supposed to be alluring? Right? Like, that's the thing that, like, I would question, because I don't see him as alluring in the original. It's Robert Mitchum, so he always is. If he's on screen, he's amazing.
Yeah, he's just an attractive guy.
He just floats on the screen. There's something about him. His character, though, I sort of see him as just sort of conniving and cunning and sort of pure base immorality. It is somebody he's a monster. He's like evil, and he's supposed to be the boogeyman. And then Gregory Peck is this very upstanding family, nuclear family. It's obviously coming out of the 50s, where that's
very
everything.
Conservative. Yeah, it's a super conservative viewpoint.
Oh yeah, and he's coming in to kind of destroy the roost, if you will, destroy the nest. And I don't know, there's something that I think what I really enjoy about it, especially Mitchum's performance, is that he makes it just kind of fun, trying to screw with them and trying to screw with the family. The hard part is, though, and the part that gets very uncomfortable, and I think the part that's problematic, and the part that is, I think, interesting looking back at it, is how it tiptoes along the crimes that he committed. Now, obviously, they couldn't say everything, but they do say a lot.
Yes.
And there's certain moments that I was kind of blown away that they put in there. I think there was one where they're on the dock, and this is where Gregory Peck and Robert Mitchum get into a little fight in the fisticuffs. He says, like, he calls the daughter and wife juicy. Yeah. And I'm like,
I gagged.
I was like, yeah. I was like, this is in the 60s and they're allowing this to happen. And I'm just looking at the notes and stuff from, what the director talked about, a lot of cuts had to be made.
Mm-hmm.
I think the director said 161 cuts the British Film Board were looking to make in this movie.
And that's interesting that that's the British, because the Hays Code had really their power had been diminished significantly after Some Like It Hot in 58 or 59, which came out, and the Hays Code was like, we hate this, we won't approve it. And Billy Wilder said, I don't care. It got a limited release and then did amazingly well. So it just kept playing. And that's one of the, and then of course Psycho came out in 60. So the two of those really eviscerated a lot of the power that the Hays Code had. And then of course, by The Graduate, Hays Code, yeah, right. And 68, it's gone.
Yeah, it's like it did kind of floor me seeing this as a 62 movie, some of the stuff that was in here, and the violence too, especially at the end. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just did not seem, it's weird. On the outside, it does kind of seem like it's a B movie. It's a very straightforward kind of thriller. Hey, your family's going to get murdered, and then there's this crazy guy who's going to come after him. Very simplistic and conservative viewpoint. But actually watching it, there is some subversion going on there where it is quite dark. And either it's just like titillating or like over the top shock that's going on, or there's something happening. There's something there for me where it does feel like there's a lot of meat on the bones. And honestly, I think Gregory Peck's perfect for this because it's the way he can play this upstanding gentleman who just won't break the rules. It's just like, that's what you needed. I mean, you need somebody who who I don't want anything bad to happen or his family. And he just won't do what needs to be done because the world's dirty, but he's not dirty, and I don't know. I that's kind of the appeal to me, is like this sort of the cat and mouse game between these two people, these two sort of cunning people who are smart in their own way. I think the point that like Cady, Robert Mitchum's version of it in the original, he's not a smart guy, but he's not. I don't think that's the point. The point is that he is driven and wants something, and he doesn't care what he has to do to get it. I think that's what makes him kind of more scary than anything. But I don't know.
Right.
I mean,
that's kind of determined. My issue is the script keeps putting it in the dialogue. Oh, he's so smart.
Yeah.
Really? Show me that. Show me that. Yes, he has tunnel vision. He is so determined.
Yes.
That's not a smart thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, and it's the amount of times that they keep saying, so smart, so smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
taught himself the law and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So this similar to the 91 version, like the script went through a lot, right? Adapting it from this, admittedly dime store novel. And so there was this like pulp aspect to it. I also wonder if that's part of my problem with it, is that's another reason why it feels out of place, even taking away the noir context. Like the screenwriter here, James Webb, is a Western guy. He did How the West Was Won, South of Santa Fe, like Roy Rogers style, like trad stuff. So like that's like the conservative viewpoint, like, but in this like almost disguise of a dark, uncomfortable psychological thriller prototype. And it feels like one of those movies that's just like lost in the shuffle of time and just part of like this growing pains. And it wasn't the right people. Also, like the direction, I just like, especially after seeing what Scorsese does, it feels so stale. There's just like, if I want this kind of like dark murkiness, I really want to I want to see that play out in an innovative, like auteurist way, and the guy here, J. Lee Thompson, is not the guy for the job.
I think part of the issue is it is too black and white, and that goes to the Pulp Fiction dime store novel element of it, of one guy is good, one guy is bad. Scorsese does try to add some murkiness to it, but in making Sam's character more murky, he also makes Cady even more evil.
Yeah.
And that loses me, because I'm like, I need them to be a little bit where you're wondering who's actually good and who's bad. And it goes to this thing, and this is something that my partner and I talk about a lot, about how do you show someone as a villain on screen. And the really cheap answer that a lot of people go for is, he's a rapist.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Let's go deeper than that. Can we not have him be a rapist? There are other ways to be an evil bad man.
Yeah.
Without being a rapist. And once that is the choice you've made, you've put me in a different movie. And you have not weighed what that means to your women and femme presenting viewers, of now I'm watching a rapist and that is all I can think about. And now what I'm wanting out of this movie isn't men telling me about rape. I want to watch some women kill a rapist.
Yeah.
Because it's also the year 2025 and everything is horrible.
Yeah. No, this is very true. Yeah. But I think both these movies were particularly hard to watch in our modern context.
I think 91 might have been even more difficult.
Yeah.
Can we go ahead, Chris?
I was just going to say, I think this pairing in particular, it necessitates us kind of talking about both at once, because I think the huge thing that Scorsese does that works for me is that you have, and I get why this doesn't work for people, and especially women, is like he's in such like a dark, cynical time. Like, he's coming off of Last Temptation of Christ and then Goodfellas, and he's like the most famous director. Like, he's got a Rolling Stone profile in advance of this movie coming out, and he is taking this opportunity to do a pulp story and ultimately subvert the good versus evil with they're all evil. Like, both these guys are terrible. I think that by turning it on its head and not like just doing the black and white opposite of like, actually Cady's got some redeeming factors. No, he doesn't. Maybe Sam has changed the error of his ways. No, he hasn't. Like, he puts so many, he makes as many bad choices. He's as not smart as much as Cady is tunnel vision. And I think that when you have that kind of just grossly unfiltered moral viewpoint combined with that pulp psycho thriller aspect, it does something that just like it like grossed me out, but in a way that just like makes it unforgettable. And I feel the same way about Goodfellas, Wolf of Wall Street. I mean, I'm admittedly just gonna go to bat for my guy Marty all the time, but it does change things when you're looking especially at his work. I'd say Cape Fear and prior, because also then like after Cape Fear he like goes to Kundun, so it's like this is he's really like going back and forth, this alternating between the two, you know, polar opposites of humanity in his filmography here. And it's telling, I think, that like when I was younger, like I was just going for Mean Streets, Taxi Driver, Cape Fear, and then like it's not until you get older that you're able to look at those in context with Last Temptation and Kundun and some of the more spiritually loaded kind of higher hope version of one of the greatest American filmmakers. That said, I'm totally aware that like Cape Fear is just largely viewed as like bottom tier Scorsese.
It actually, his version feels a lot like a lot of Lifetime movies of the 90s.
Yeah.
It is
That's what I
that
thought, too.
formula. It's fear. It's fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Totally.
Mark Wahlberg movie, is that what you're referring to?
It is the Mark. I actually think it is a lesser version of Fear, and I don't think Fear is great. I think but a lot of my issue is how women are written, treated, handled, how much emphasis is put on guess how much of the rapiness we're going to watch, and not thinking, hey, maybe let's not accost our viewers with this and then not give them the right catharsis. And right now we are in a stage where a couple of women in the industry are reevaluating the rape revenge genre and making their own takes on it, and really emphasizing we are not showing the rapes, or we're cutting away from the rapes, and we're going to revel in the revenge because we know you as the audience do not need to watch this. We're going to trust that you know it's terrible and not traumatize you. And instead, you get to watch the beauty of revenge.
Yeah. No, I mean, man, when I was watching Cape Fear 1991, even within the first 10 minutes, I'm like, what the hell am I watching? I was blown away. Now, admittedly, I'm, Scorsese is someone who I am very hot and cold on. Like some of his movies, I despise. I do not like Goodfellas. I don't like it.
Oh, wow.
People are gonna attack me. Like I've had this stance since I was a teenager when I first saw it. To me, it does not click to me. It is excessive in terms of violence. I think it glorifies certain things that it definitely shouldn't. Wolf of Wall Street's one of my favorite movies of all time.
I hate that one.
Yeah, see, it's like, he's one of those guys maybe where it's just like, Shutter Island's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Anyways,
oh yeah, that one's bad. That was just straight bad.
It's pretty stupid. That's a very obvious twist. It's like, do you know the Sixth Sense twist? Okay,
yeah, it's like the first 10 minutes. I'm like, what?
It's so
duh.
obvious.
Like what? I can't put into words how unmoored I was by watching this movie. Not only because it's like coming from I watched the original first, like maybe a couple days before, and then I would say the original, despite being B-movie-ish, thriller-ish, it's still kind of a stately studio picture on some level, even though the subject matter is pretty in the gutter. But this one, did I miss something from like the 80s to like the mid 90s? Was there a period of movies
exactly? I've been waiting to say it. Yeah.
I'm just like, what the hell is going on? Like
it's conservative family values, but trying to parade as Catholic morality play. But it really is like, it's the Lifetime Mother May I Sleep with Danger. And it's trying to have this conversation about the daughter and her sexuality. But again, because Cady is so evil, you think she's the dumbest kid you've ever seen. What is with the thumb-sucking scene? It's also like, did you guys realize this came out the same year as Silence of the Lambs? And he bit off a woman's cheek, which was my moment of, that was also my moment of, there are other people who called the police. They saw him. She's been accosted to such a degree. Also, in cases like that, the victim does not need to testify or be the one to press charges for an arrest to happen.
Yeah.
And up until 1970, rape was a capital offense.
Yeah.
The witnesses calling in, they would testify. There's so much physical evidence that even her saying, I don't want to testify, great. There's enough to put a guy who already has a violent rape record, on his rap sheet away for good. Like, that's where, to me, I'm just like, come on, guys.
I do have to say that I agree. I'm thinking a lot of these things when I watch both these films, and just like a lot of films that have to deal with the criminal justice process. And I mean, probably my least favorite is it has the danger of winning Best Picture of Amelia Perez.
Amelia Perez, horrible
fiction. Being a lawyer.
I work in true crime. I actually deal with the legal justice system on a daily basis, and I know it fucking sucks. So look, I'm okay with movies saying that our justice system sucks. It is a mess. And I am here for them to make a statement about how it re-traumatizes and re-victimizes women. That's absolutely true. What I am not here for are these super glaring, this guy is such a level of, just knowing what his background is, knowing what his record is, and knowing what evidence is so glaringly obvious. Even to me, I'm like, but there's nothing that would keep him not in, like, it just doesn't track.
Right.
And that's me saying the justice system sucks, but even still, that's how overt this is.
And the sense that I got, especially with the stylization and the melodrama, is that this is not necessarily, like, even more so than the Mitchum character, like way more than the Mitchum version of this character. Like, De Niro is playing this guy as someone more like Anton Chigurh from No Country for Old Men.
Well, Javier Bardem is playing the character in the TV remake we're getting.
Oh,
no
really?
Way. How about that?
That makes a lot of sense. Where it's like, it feels mutated. It feels like a distorted version of reality. We're more on the level of, like, maybe like kind of some kind of Catholic morality play, but like, as much as Scorsese is known for movies based on true stories, this is not one of them, and this feels very much just like a very, like, funhouse demented horror version of the domestic Lifetime movie. And and perhaps I'm pulling at straws, I'm reaching, but I think that, like, that's what clicked for me with the remake, especially on my rewatch, because I definitely kind of watched it kind of airheaded many times, where I'm just like, man, look what he's doing with the camera. Look at what like how intense De Niro is, and yet I can still, like, hold this the same truth that, for instance, that thumb sucking scene, like, it does kind of, like, especially once you dig and find out that, like, that was improvised, and, like, Juliette Lewis did not know that De Niro was going to do that.
Ew.
Right.
Oh, I don't.
So that just makes everything worse.
I mean, just from a basic, and then just me going back to meat and potatoes storytelling and, like, script writing, why in the hell is that scene in there at all?
Right.
Like,
I'm sorry.
just
Random
don't
adult
get
man
it.
shows up in school
At
and
high
accosts a
school?
15-year-old, and no one is like, oh yeah, no, clearly the father's at fault for having him beat up. I'm sorry. That's not how that works. Again, this guy is a rich lawyer who people respect. This guy is a criminal who went to jail for violently raping a child. He should never be around children.
Yeah, wouldn't there be some sort of, like, sex offender list or something?
So the registry didn't exist for another, like, 20 years. Or actually, oh no, now we're in the 80s, because it was 77 when the first thing happened. So, like, 10 years. But even still,
it just, I guess, even not even from, like, a criminal standpoint, just from, like, a storytelling viewpoint. Why did and there's a huge debate about this script, because there is a whole, like, Scorsese and Lang basically said that they had to rewrite it 24 times. They had to improvise all these scenes and make up characters because there weren't really characters in the script. There's a lot of negative stuff towards the screenwriter, so much so that screenwriters had to go to the LA Times, write an editorial to defend the screenwriter from these accusations, and it was a huge back and forth.
So I wonder what the real script was.
Exactly. And I guess it's like, what is this choice to make De Niro so over the top? Like, I was really aghast at his characterization, his acting. And it's like, did we think the accent was just terrible?
The accent.
I think the thing about it for me is that where Robert Mitchum pulls it off, I think, for me, completely amazingly, like, just so well. De Niro is like, I don't even know what acting you would call this. It's just completely bonkers to me. And it doesn't connect at all to creating a compelling. He's not a compelling character. He's just like a
He's a
buffoon.
cartoon character.
So
Yeah.
when Spielberg was originally making this movie, he wanted it to be someone like Bill Murray. And this, so my partner and I were talking about how it should have actually been someone who came from a more comedy background, who is a little more unassuming.
Yeah.
Also, given what his crime is, if you want to tone him down a bit, make it murkier, then he shouldn't look so old. Like, if this is a guy who is now in his early 30s and went away at the end of his teens or in his 20s, there's much more room to be like, oh, what really happened? And there's also more room to be like, what really happened in the original than there is in this one, where what we're told is so truly horrendous that there is no room for, okay, I can see why the daughter maybe has a crush on him.
Yeah. I mean, he bites a cheek off a woman in the first, 30 minutes?
Hannibal Lecter's.
Yeah.
You know what? I got Hannibal Lecter that same year. It's a much better movie, and it has much better interiority for its female characters.
Chris, as the Scorsese defender here, give us something. Give me something to chew on, so to speak. Like,
I find it interesting that, like, this is... I feel like Scorsese did the right thing by making Cady as despicable as possible. I think that by having De Niro play him, obviously you've got a history between the star and director. They've got a working relationship. But also it creates this... I mean, I also, have some nostalgia baggage where, like, I remember seeing this as a young teen. I was like, this is like the scariest guy. Like, I think he's just as scary as Hannibal Lecter, to be honest. I think that there's a different reason that they're scary, but I think that Scorsese goes all in on the cartoon side of, like, this is like kind of like I don't know. Also reminds me of, like, Christopher Lloyd in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where it's like this is the face of evil. Like Max Cady, like sneaking in
Robert.
on.
Yeah, he's so stupid.
But
keep going, Chris. We gotta give him space.
But the thing is, he's stupid, but Nick Nolte's stupider. Right.
I know.
Like,
it's amazing how stupid they both are.
I know. And just, like, I don't know, I got chills, like, just, like, ripping my own hair out watching Nick Nolte behind that dumpster, just peering in as the voyeur to this attack. Joe Don Baker as the private eye, who's maybe stupider than both of them combined.
That is a terrible PI.
I just, it's so, the combination of silliness and darkness is something that I don't know of any other movie that is able to do that in a way that both just, like, amps everything up to 1,000. So it's so absurd and so ridiculous, and yet it's still also so scary, so insane to, like, watch. And like, I think that is a powerful mixture of tones that makes me, at the end of it, be able to both disconnect as well as see it for what it is, which is ultimately, maybe it's a Scorsese movie, so it's going to be a Catholic morality play. But what a statement to make in 91, the middle of Bush one, of this ultimate takedown of not just the criminal justice system, not just rape culture, but also the patriarchy led domestic family unit.
How do you feel about the 5 different endings?
Oh my gosh, yeah, no. And this is the same thing for the original Cape Fear.
I agree. In both movies, he becomes a superhuman, and I'm like, guys, he was just a man. Why can't we kill him?
Right, but the pacing is what bothers me. But I do think that, like, making him the Michael Myers style, like,
he becomes Jason, literally.
Yeah, like it burned Robert De Niro in the water, laughing maniacally. I could eat it up. But
that is when my dog could not handle it anymore. That was the moment that my dog was not there.
Man.
I needed him to shut up by the end. I was getting so annoyed. I was like, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Please. When he starts doing his, like, I find you guilty of this. I went to Letterboxd and I wrote, I find this movie guilty of assaulting my eyeballs and my ears.
It is a lot. It is a lot. So thinking about, I want to connect this to your through line of the revenge thriller, because I absolutely love the jump scare of Juliette Lewis squirting the lighter fluid when De Niro lights the cigar. Like that's so cathartic in a number of ways, even though it's ending 2 of 5. But I'm curious. I feel like when we were talking last week, Dan, about Dawn of the Dead, and in a similar fashion, this idea of it being an assault on the senses. What is it? Is it the clear social commentary there that makes those kinds of horror movies? Because that's essentially
you mean like the gore part of it, like
the I haven't seen the remake of Dawn of the Dead, but I do love the original Dawn of the Dead.
Which still fits, because it's like there's you think of in Dawn of the Dead the original, the scenes that stick out to me, and obviously there's tons of gore even from the beginning, the paper mache head getting blown off, but like the scenes that stick out to me in Dawn of the Dead, like the bikers getting ripped apart and it's like pig intestines coming out of them, like it's really disgusting stuff. But to Chris's like point, like what I loved about the original is I could see the writer and the director and the actors having this ideological discourse about justice and what it means and the law. Yeah, I don't see any of that in the remake. Like I was saying, like next to none. And I'm being harsh. Fair. I'm being very harsh. But it's Scorsese. He's a brilliant man. Like obviously he's an unbelievable film director. It's just not there for me. And that's the story. The story is, what do you do when justice and law does not protect the innocent? Yeah. How far do you go? What rules do you have to break?
And it really doesn't. And it really, really doesn't for women. And that's kind of what makes the story not work for me, is that's whose story it should be. It should be a woman's story. It shouldn't be the story of the most insane, psychotic, evil cartoon character stalking a man who is respected by the community, because neither of those voices have the same weight in a community. And it's just not something I could get behind. The idea of a man who is maybe a little dangerous and you don't totally know, and is kind of the mother, as I said, the mother, may I sleep with danger, the man who represents, is he death, death and the maiden, and all that idea of she's aroused and she's young and it's also dangerous and terrifying, and threading that line and turning that story into how the justice system does not protect women. Now that's an interesting story.
Yeah, that would be. Okay, so here's the thing that I really latched onto that I thought was a smart change. Maybe I can at least get you guys on my side about this from the original to the remake. Is that I love that it's changed from Sam as a witness to Sam as his former defense lawyer.
Agreed, fully agreed. It makes his vengeance actually make sense.
Right. And also like that, the idea of like chipping away at Sam's reputation. You don't get the kind of wooden, wholesome Gregory Peck, and you all not even considering the whole marriage troubles that reveal themselves between him and Jessica Lange and her nondescript media career, which is annoying. But
also the way that the police treat a prosecutor versus a defense attorney. Yes. Agree. I do agree with.
Yeah. Dan?
I don't know.
He doesn't want to give me a single bone.
I just there's nothing. I honestly,
and Nick Nolte's just despicable to look at.
He is.
Okay. Even that attempt of making him like this philanderer, he's cheating on his wife, all that sort of stuff. I mean, it's just like, what? it is so hard for me to like think of Nick Nolte, his character, as like morally corrupt. Like, what is morally? I mean, he's kind of just a dude who's, you know, being
He's
kind of a jerk.
That's it.
Yeah, he's kind of like, you know, and like the thing, he withholds the sexual history of a woman that was raped. Who fucking cares?
A child.
Yeah,
a child.
Like, why would I give a shit? Number one. Like,
might I explain how that would go in court?
Yeah,
Hi, my client is a 40-year-old man accused of raping and violently beating a child. Guess what? That child had sex before. Hi, I'm the prosecutor, and I motion for this evidence to not be in court for these reasons. Judge, I side with the prosecutor. Done.
Yeah, it would never.
You know why? Because he looks like a 40-year-old man, and she's a child, and therein lies a huge part of your problem. And I know that the justice system slut shames women. Yeah, but again, she was a child, and he looks like a 40-year-old man.
Yeah, I mean, it's
the not remake, date rape. It is a grown ass man and a kid.
And also, it's like the okay. One of the scenes I will say that like in the remake, it stood out to me that I was like, oh, this is interesting. Is the moment Nolte kind of accosts his daughter.
Oh yeah, that's
in the bedroom. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, there's something happening here where it's like this sort of, you know, did you do anything? Did he touch you? And then he like physically assaults his daughter. And I was like, oh, okay, like there's something happening here. There's something that, you know, the writer's trying to say, Scorsese's trying to say that about patriarchy and oppressing women and all these sort of things. But that's like a moment, and it just sort of like floats off, you know, and at the end we're in like some sort of sound stage and there's a whirlpool and
it never says anything. And again, this is where I really wish a sensitivity reader or a woman had just come in and made some big changes.
Yeah. And like also like production, God, man, I need some more stylistic points for this movie because I just cannot connect it to anything. De Palma, obviously, but like,
yes,
like the sky in some of the scenes. I'm like,
he didn't want to make this movie. He traded this with Spielberg, and Spielberg didn't want to direct it because he thought it was too violent, and it was Scorsese's like promise to the studio of, okay, I'll do something mainstream.
Yeah,
true.
And so I think it worked, right? It did really well. From what I remember.
I mean, so the first one didn't actually do that great. Didn't get nominated for anything. Was middling. This did better. But if you actually look at what was up for the Academy Awards that year, it is not a great year. Yeah, aside from Beauty and the Beast and Psycho, and then obviously they like didn't nominate Boys in the Hood for anything, and Thelma and Louise only got a couple. You get Bugsy. You get Bugsy. You get, oh my God. Another thing with Nick Nolte, the Barbara Streisand movie, the ties that bind. It is not a great year.
Yeah. And to be clear, the thing that Spielberg got in return for the trade was Schindler's List.
Yes.
So you can imagine that Marty, who, you know, wouldn't go on to get an Oscar until The Departed, that he's like, God damn it.
Was that his first Oscar? Was The Departed?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Spielberg did a lot of great trades because didn't he traded The Haunting with Jan de Bont for something better? Yep.
What was that one?
He knew when to trade. I don't know, but that's how Jan de Bont ended up doing The Haunting instead of Spielberg. And apparently Spielberg heard all these horror stories from set because people hated working with Jan de Bont, and there was crew that was like quitting day in and day out.
Same as on Twister too. Yeah.
Yep, that Spielberg flew out to set to yell at Jan de Bont.
That's right.
And he didn't even get off the plane. He yelled at him from the plane, just sat back down, and it went away.
I love it. Oh my gosh. What a power broker, Spielberg.
He's a smart businessman.
How do I, before we get into trivia, what are closing thoughts on these films? I gotta say, watching them back to back was incredibly jarring.
Yes.
Yes. And I think if I had not watched the original and just watched Cape Fear 1991 on its own, I would probably have a different reaction. But man, it is like I felt like I was in a washing machine
Yeah.
Kind of like the end of the movie, the 91 remake, just twirling around in this boat. Where were they? That's not North Carolina.
That was
that's
Cape,
not
Cape
that's
Fear?
in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah,
What is going
is Cape Fear a real place?
Yeah, it's supposed to be like,
Yes.
you know, I don't know,
I
like
don't even know.
the Outer
None of
Banks or
us are
whatever.
from North Carolina, clearly.
Yeah, but there's no water or weather like that, and it just that doesn't happen. That's my final thoughts. Totally unbelievable. I can't believe what I was seeing on screen.
For your final thoughts to be weather related.
I just can't even.
I don't think if I weren't doing it for a podcast, I don't think I would have watched the remake after watching the original. I would have thought, okay.
So these were rewatches for me, but I did it backwards because I'm trying to like mix it up. When we did Dawn of the Dead, I watched the original first.
Oh, the original is so good.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And also I was bracing myself to watch Zack Snyder, I guess.
I don't.
For this one, because I watched the remake first, that also might have had an effect on my kind of slight distaste for the original, because it's so tame in comparison, even though it's clearly incredibly shocking and spicy for 1962. I do think that we do struggle sometimes on this show because we gravitate towards a lot of these like pulpy stories. I do like, there's a quote from Kristen Grote of The Avocado, where she says, it's perhaps for this reason that the film has never been embraced as the exploitation schlockfest that it is. It's trying too hard to pass itself off as a quote, kind of elevated trash, which I think kind of nails it down for me as to why this is not top tier Scorsese for me, but in some ways it works, but perhaps it's simply because of its ability to really ride that hard line of trash, but made by an expert filmmaker that knows how to like just keep your attention and keep your mouth agape for 2 hours.
Yeah,
I don't disagree. It is trying too hard to elevate it from being it's a trashy text. I think at the end of the day, I think the original book is just not a great text.
As the saying goes, there were script problems from day one. So.
Yeah.
Are you guys ready for trivia?
Let's do it. Did we do trivia last time, Amanda, with you?
No, this is new.
So this is new. Okay, good luck. I'm terrible, so you're going to be
great. I'll probably be terrible too.
All right, I'm going to read an excerpt of a review for 5 different.
I see the haunt.
Yeah,
the haunting is part of this.
Oh my god, I love the original.
Apropos.
I know, I've been surprised. The 1990s remakes or reboots, whatever you want to call them.
Wait, True Lies was a remake?
Yeah, of a French film.
Oh my god, I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
I've seen so many of these, by the way, the originals on the remakes, but not.
Yeah,
I knew City of Angels was. I knew that. Okay,
so many of these were remakes of foreign movies. The 90s really got onto that. Okay, first to guess the correct film based on the excerpt of a review gets the point. Best out of 5 wins. Listeners at home, my co-host and our guest have a graphic in front of them so that they're not just trying to guess random 90s movies. Okay, number 1. In the history of... Wait, is this the right one I'm doing? Sorry, 1 second.
Here we go.
The remake is so close to the original that there is no reason to see both unless you want to prove to yourself that black and white photography is indeed more effective than color.
Psycho.
Not Psycho. Good guess.
Not Psycho.
Not Living Dead.
The Haunting.
Not The Haunting.
Not Living Dead.
Yep, you got it, Dan. Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah,
that was
directed by Tom Savini, who did the gore effects in Dawn of the Dead.
Too bad but Tony Todd's so good in the.
He walked. Remake. Apparently, Tom Savini never saw the final cut.
What?
I remember reading this. I could be wrong, but I think Tom Savini walked out during editing.
Wow,
and never went back. That's
okay,
what I remember. You guys, someone fact check me on that eventually out there, but I think that's what happened. Yeah, great remake though. Really liked it.
So I love Tony Todd in it, but I do agree that it is shot in a pretty ugly fashion. That was a quote from Roger Ebert, by the way. Okay, number 2. I did kind of give that one as a gimme to Dan, to be honest, Amanda, since he's a Romero freak. Okay,
I mean, it
this
could have
is-
fit Psycho as well, since that's just a
Right.
shot-for-shot remake in color.
Exactly. This one's from Desmond Thompson of the Washington Post. Mystifying, intriguing, even infuriating. It shows what happens when an unconventional talent meets straightforward material.
City of Angels?
Nope.
Flubber.
Unconventional talent.
Nope.
Unconventional talent.
The Mummy?
Nope.
12 Monkeys?
There you go, Dan. Nice
Oh,
work.
man.
Terry Gilliam remaking a time travel movie. I had to do that one. It's personally a favorite of mine, even though Terry Gilliam's a dirtbag of a human. But oh my gosh,
I haven't
love
seen it in
Bruce
a long
Willis and
time.
Brad Pitt in that.
I haven't even seen that one.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you have? Oh, it's really fun.
That was that quote. I was like, what?
Yeah, that's a
Nope,
tough one.
Okay. All right. I think you got this one, Amanda. Where is it?
I know. I thought City of Angels, unconventional talent. Nick Cage.
That is true. That does fit too. The remake impresses only on the level of a cinematic parlor trick, and while that makes it an interesting curiosity, the world doesn't need it.
Psycho.
There you go.
Yeah,
Nice
that's got to
one.
be Psycho. Totally.
I thought that was a pretty good.
Did anybody else see that in the
description.
theater? The remake?
Yep.
No.
Oh yeah. It's like,
Oh boy.
With my
I don't
older
even know
brother.
why.
That was, oh my gosh.
I'm so sorry. Why?
I was just curious. I didn't have anything else to do, to be honest with you. That was
we
one
were
of those
15.
kids.
Like, yeah.
What year did that come out?
98.
98.
I was
we were in high
not
school.
15. I was 5.
Yeah, me and Chris were in high school and we were dweebs, so we went to everything.
Yeah, exactly.
I was 5, so I was too young to be a dweeb yet.
That was a quote from Keith Phipps of the AV Club. Next up, Stephen Holden of the New York Times said this. The movie aspires toward a solemnity that the prosaic psychobabbling screenplay cannot support.
The Jackal?
Nope.
Say Sabrina.
Nope.
Oh.
The Thomas Crown Affair?
No.
The Haunting.
Nope.
Psycho.
The movie is so busy being seriously romantic that it forgets
The Mummy?
poetry, the whimsy, the airy mystery, the dreamy what if of angelic contemplation.
The Mummy?
No.
Wait, City of
Trap. Oh,
Angels?
City of Angels.
Yeah, that's City of Angels. Yeah.
I don't know that I've seen all the way through.
Oh yeah. We've seen Wim Wenders' Wings of Desire, upon which it's based. Oh my God, Peter Falk, so good.
Iris is a great song, so I'll give it that.
Oh my gosh, should have known you'd invoke the Goo Goo Dolls.
Love the Goo Goo Dolls.
Such a good
Come on.
song, though.
It's perfect.
It
Perfect
is, I
song.
have to admit. 2-2, tiebreaker.
Ooh,
Number
tiebreaker.
5. Let's go. The female lead who gracefully sways through a memorable drunk scene, and the male lead who's
The Mummy.
No, good guess though, because there is another. I just realized you're right.
You're
There's a
really
drunk
tricky
scene.
this round. This
There's
time.
a drunk scene.
Yeah, and the male lead whose megawatt smile has never been more dazzling are
Sabrina.
disarmingly charming as the parents.
Oh, The Parent Trap.
Parent Trap.
There you go.
All
Yeah.
right, we give it to you.
What a weird review from Joe Layden of Variety, but
So strange.
That's bizarre.
yeah, just like praising Dennis Quaid's smile. And
I've never heard anyone say. I was just
Ronald
like, wait,
Reagan himself.
I started to go to Thomas Crown Affair because Pierce Brosnan, like I've
right, that would make
he's
sense.
phenomenal.
Dennis Quaid, but also even
Dennis
like
Quaid.
Harrison Ford. I've heard, but Dennis
Right.
Quaid.
Everybody
Dennis Quaid,
on
yeah.
these posters except for Dennis Quaid. Oh my
Like
gosh.
all the other men, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, nice work, Amanda. You beat
3-2.
my co-host, which is
I knew
always
you were
my
gonna win. I
goal
always
with trivia.
lose. I always lose.
Yay!
Oh my gosh. This has been so fun. Amanda, where can people find you online?
Yes, I am on Blue Sky and Instagram at Amanda Jane Stern, and then I am on Letterboxd at Witchy Wanderer.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And yeah, I definitely recommend checking out Don't Be Crazy. Solid podcast. I did eat up your Bram Stoker's Dracula
Oh, thank you.
episode.
We had so much fun with that.
Yeah, one of my faves, and we brought it up, of course, in our Nosferatu episode earlier this season.
Did you like Nosferatu 2024?
I haven't listened to the movie. I haven't listened to your Nosferatu episode yet.
Oh, you should.
Okay, so I saw it in theaters, obviously, and one of the things that struck me the most is that there was a couple next to me at the theater, and they ordered popcorn, and the guy brought his own, like, I don't know what, salt or something to sprinkle.
Oh yeah,
over.
I get that. I get it.
He had a
Seasoning.
little baggie, and I'm calling it his own special seasoning flakes, because every once in a while he'd like take it out and just sprinkle it over.
Because you got to evenly distribute throughout the bucket.
It was really weird. What I'll say is I think it's I think it's technically beautiful.
Yeah.
Technically really well done.
Technically great.
If I want really horny Dracula that understands female sexuality, then I want Bram Stoker's Dracula. And if I want one where I actually find Nosferatu to be frightening, I will watch The Silent, because I think he talked way too much to the point where I found him annoying, and I thought I was watching Rasputin from Anastasia. And also, that mustache was so unserious.
Yeah.
You don't even need to listen to our episode because you just recapped it in like 2 seconds.
Summary. Nice work.
That's exactly what we thought.
It's beautiful, but
it's gorgeous.
It just, like, also I didn't need to be with Frederick so much. He was so annoying.
So boring.
If I didn't know that Aaron Taylor Johnson was British, I would have thought he went to the Keanu Reeves School of British Accents. It was bad.
I love it. Awesome.
So that's kind of where I stood.
That's
good. Well, I'm glad we could end on that agreement, even if we could not find some common ground for the Cape Fears. Next week, Dan, are you ready?
The Fly. I'm gonna try and see it here in on the big screen here. The Rio Theater in Vancouver does it, so I might see it here. And then I got The Fly next week, and then King Kong, Fistful of Dollars, and then Maltese Falcon to close out the Visionary Remakes season.
Wait, there's a remake of the Maltese Falcon?
So like the 41's technically a remake of the 31
John
version.
Huston.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
Yeah, I didn't know that either until we were doing this.
Yeah.
Wait, okay, who was in the original? No, because I know. No, that's not, because they did a bunch of. Who played the other Philip Marlowe before Bogart?
In the 31 version, it's Ricardo Cortez, but I don't know.
Okay, I haven't seen that one, because there's another. It's not Maltese Falcon. It's his other noir that he did. There was a kind of goofier movie of the same detective before the Bogart version. It must be it might be his Big Sleep character, or his
very similar.
Trying to think. Obviously, I've seen a lot of the book. Again, I've seen a lot of the noir, so now my brain is going, which one am I thinking of?
So we'll close out this season with that, and then as always, thanks for listening. This has been Film Trace.